You are listening to WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with a global soul. Our theme music is a clip of Summer Nights by the Eric Jones Trio. It's provided by our friend Mark Chesanout, who plays with the Eric Jones Trio every Thursday and Sunday at Good Times Jazz Bar downtown.
Hey everyone, welcome to Arts on the Air. This is Tamara Garvey, and I have the pleasure today of being with Veronica Garcia-Melendez. Welcome.
Hi.
So happy to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So Veronica, locals might know, she's half of the local synth band Bero Bero, which was formed in 2018. And I love this description of you guys on your site. You're described as Sade meets Kate Bush. So she's half of that group, and the other member is David Murray. So Veronica, I just wanted to start out, and just so everybody knows, we did play songs by Bero Bero. If you were listening to our Thanksgiving show, we played songs from their EP Dance, which is from 2020, and they have another EP set to release soon, which is exciting. We'll definitely talk about that. So Veronica, we never met when we both lived in New York, but we were living in New York at around the same time. Can you tell us what your life was like musically there before you came to Savannah?
Sure. When I lived in New York, I kind of bit off more than I could chew as far as commitments, and I think I was just working so hard to make money, like as a working musician, that it was hard for me to cut out a lot of creative time and have creative space, because I was, I had like 100 students, whether it was like private students or group classes, plus I was like in 4 bands.
Wow.
Some of the bands were like for money, and then a couple of the bands were more like creative projects, but still it was, I don't know, never could really take the time to kind of focus in on any one thing. Because I mean, New York is a lot, so... Yeah,
so stressful. And the bands that were for making money, do you mean by doing live performances or like selling albums? How?
Yeah, like playing live gigs that paid well, but they weren't necessarily like creative projects. Yeah. Like either they'd be like jazz cover gigs or like rock cover gigs, and it wasn't like making your own music.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's interesting. That's what the music was. And then doing lessons is like the majority of your work.
And so then that, like doing the lessons and all that, cut down on being able to get into projects that would maybe go on the road and stuff like that, because the students and the kids, you have to be very committed to their schedules, and like the major thing with teaching children is consistency.
Okay.
And it's apparently really disruptive to their learning if they have inconsistent anything.
Yeah.
So, obviously children grow up with inconsistencies in their families, but so educators try to really, whatever's going on at home, at least that, education is consistent, and we need to set that example and that expectation. Plus, if I'm not showing up to teach, I won't make that money.
Yeah.
So it was like,
that's a really interesting point. So your priority couldn't be yourself and like just taking off and doing touring.
Yeah. And I mean, I think if I moved there when I was kind of older too, so maybe if I had moved there like at 20, it would have been different.
Yeah.
It was just more...
When you have infinite energy.
Yeah, and less responsibility as far as like, whatever. Paying off things and...
As you're older, you have more weights on you.
Yeah.
So when you moved to Savannah, I know you had family who moved here too. Had you been kind of like looking for a way to get out of New York and be somewhere easier?
Actually, my New York opportunities were actually growing a lot, especially as an educator and like a community member in the arts and stuff. And I was actually, and even some music like opportunities, things were going really well, that they were actually and going in the positive direction. The thing was though is like I was so like busy working all the time that I felt lonely a lot. This is so funny. I wasn't expecting you to ask me these questions. I don't know. I felt like if I was going to, if I was going to leave New York, that was the moment to do it. Otherwise, I would be there the rest of my life, and I didn't want to live in New York for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I actually ended up in New York kind of not intentionally, so it wasn't someplace that I dreamed of living. I don't regret living there. It was awesome, and I had a great time, and a lot of wonderful things I got out of that experience. But like, it was just kind of like I had to make a decision, like my long-term goals. And to your point when you walked in about how Savannah's changing, a bunch of people from New York have moved here now, so I'm glad I moved when I did, when everything in Savannah was cheaper.
That's how I felt about being in New York too. It wasn't ever my dream to be there lifelong, so I'm glad I did it. So on my deathbed, I can say I tried it, but
yeah.
it wasn't
Well,
for me
and
forever.
you moved at the right time too, right?
Yeah.
Because if you moved now, you wouldn't
it's a
have
whole
the
different
setup
city.
and the lifestyle that you have. Yeah.
And also, and just to get back, the reason that I kind of ask, I feel like there's a lot of crossover amongst creatives between Savannah and New York, and quite a few people who kind of have bounced back and forth between the two. So I think it's really interesting to ask people about their experience in both places, because there's a lot to mine out about like the difference in your artistic life being somewhere that's super competitive and has like infinite possibilities versus somewhere that's smaller but is maybe can be easier to get a niche.
Yeah, I mean, well, moving here, I got a chance to focus in on what I wanted to do creatively and, kind of find my own voice as a musician, because before I was just playing, any gig I could get to make money.
Yeah, so much of it is just making money to get by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then here, no one really knows me as a, like, gigging musician, really, you know what I mean? But I mean, and sometimes I feel like no one calls me for that kind of thing, but it's like, I used to do that.
Yeah.
I used to play all kinds of genres, all kinds of events and stuff like that. I mean, at some point, I think I'm, when I get like old, like maybe I'll branch out and like do, but I don't know, right now I'm just like really into focusing on original music, and even with the Maxines, it's like another original music project. So, and then Savannah's allowed for that, because I don't have to, I found other ways of just to supplement my income so that I can just focus on making the music that I want to make.
Yeah, it's cool you came here and you could just like create your entire musical identity that you wanted to. So did you arrive here, was it like 2017?
Like 2015.
Okay, so what were your first impressions of music scene and downtown and everything?
Well, yeah, so in New York, I would go on Craigslist and find gigs and projects and things to be involved in. I mean, obviously, that also is just telling of the time, because no one cares about Craigslist now. But back in from 2010 or whatever.
That was the way you were finding things.
Yeah. And then, you'd get like some connection on Craigslist that would open up other connections to other gigs, opportunities, whatever.
That's good that it wasn't all just scams on Craigslist, but real things.
Yeah, no, I mean, in New York, I got a lot of work off of Craigslist. So I moved here and I went on Craigslist and it was like not really anything going on.
Yeah, there's like one post every 2 days.
Yeah, for music, like not really many gigs or opportunities.
Yeah.
And so that was really scary transition, and I ended up getting like a part-time like day job kind of situation, which I hadn't worked in a really long time.
Wow.
Because I was like, oh, this is going to be a little more difficult.
Yeah. Your standard way of going about it was not going to be the same thing here.
Yeah.
So what did you discover? Would you go out and just network with people and meet them, or was it like listings on bulletin boards and stuff?
It was, yeah, networking at shows and meeting people at shows and stuff. Well, I mean, I did meet the first musician friend I met in town was off of Craigslist, but that's because he moved here from New York too, so he's probably used to Craigslist. So then, like, that kind of, you know, got me into where to go. Like, he has been here longer, so he knew, like, the spots where to go and meet other people.
Back then?
Well, the first place I ever got on stage was the Wormhole.
Okay.
And
at like an open mic.
Yeah. But so like the first person I met in Savannah that did any music was Andy Sutphin from Street Clothes, and so I just went over like to audition for the band, and then like learned a bunch of their songs, and then we went to open mic. And so it was like this first night I went to any sort of practice in Savannah, I went on stage.
Oh, you just went straight out?
Yeah.
Wow. Was that an audition for you? Or?
So, well, I mean, it was just fun because it was like,
that's cool.
You know, got to learn the songs, like run through the songs and then go try them out at a venue I'd never heard of. You know,
love first.
Like, okay, a lot of things to learn tonight. Like,
and then after that night, were you like, okay, you're in Street Clothes?
Yeah, I mean, I was playing with them sort of, and like kind of seeing what's going on, and then as we got into that was like actually I moved here at the end of 2014. Okay. So that was like the end of 2014. Then getting into 2015 is when David got in the band, and then I liked playing with him, especially like we had this real connection. So then we were both like real steady members of that band for a few years.
Were you playing keyboards for them?
Yeah.
So how would you guys write songs together? Would you write the music and then the lyrics would come later?
Well, for Street Clothes, I mean, Andy would come up with you know, he'd write things on guitar and stuff like that. And then as a group, we would come up with the songs. But then at some point, we transitioned, and then it was kind of like David and I arranged a lot of the songs, and then with Andy, and like one of the records, it was just me, David, and Andy, and the engineer. Like there wasn't even other band members. Okay.
Just really stripped down.
Yeah, and we recorded the album and then found people after to play it live, and then like the band like built up again.
Oh, what were the other instruments you needed to fill in then?
Bass and guitar.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys were the core people, and then for live shows you found these other.
Yeah, and then but then it was a full band again. It was just like for a minute there for about like a year and a half or so.
That's a substantial amount of time.
There wasn't like a whole band.
Yeah. Is that when you started learning about, like you mentioned arranging and like the music production and kind of the electronic back end of that stuff? Is that when you started?
Yeah, because I feel like, in this, at Dollhouse Productions, Peter Mavageorge's, his studio that used to be over out...
Was that out Skidaway?
No, it's... You go down Louisville Road.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Louisville Road. I say Louisville because my mom's from Kentucky.
Yeah.
So I don't say Louisville.
Louisville.
Yeah. He had a warehouse space out there. And so I'd say from, I want to say 2016, maybe 2015, 2016, 2019 or so, I spent a good amount of time over at that studio. Okay. Not just on my projects, but like going over and recording on other people's albums that that needed players that Peter would recommend me, and they'd hire me to come in and play or sing. Yeah. So
that was a bit like what you were doing in New York, where you're hired in for specific gigs and things.
Yeah. But it was but it was in a studio. So I learned a lot more about production engineering, and while I was in there doing all that, and then also just helping work on albums, other people's stuff, that even I just would go and hang out.
What are all the instruments that you play?
Well, my main is keys. I grew up with guitar in my house, so I kind of get around on a guitar okay. And then I recently picked up bass, which was that album that we did, just the stripped down, as I ended up playing bass on that.
Huh.
Yeah, and then David encouraged me to start playing percussion, and so that's kind of it started in street clothes, the percussion stuff a little bit, and so that's when Bero Bero started. Like, we just kept adding more percussion parts, more percussion for me to play. So
what is the name of it? So and when I see you perform, the drums that you play, it's not like a drum set. What is that called?
Sure, I have some timbales.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I have like blocks and cowbells and shakers, and now we added this cymbal right here.
It's such a cool, unique sound. It's nice to hear just the names of things for all of us who are not trained musicians.
Yeah.
How is it? So you said sometimes they'd call you in to like pinch hit as a vocalist in other bands. That sounds intimidating. How did you find that?
I find that I miss having a studio to go hang out.
Yeah.
Because he closed and moved to Atlanta.
And there hasn't been anything kind of take the place of that?
New stuff's popping up, but like, you know, he was like a friend of ours and like had played with us on different things, and so it was like cool to go over there, and and I would just learn by watching him mix other people's stuff, or even like street clothes, like the first album ever. I was the only person in the band that would show up to every mixing session and just like, and I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Like,
just observing.
Yeah, just observing. And then the more I was in the studio, the more confidence I built, and understanding I built. So that way I started having ideas and started being able to express them, you know. But at first I would say zero and just like, watch.
Were people amenable to your ideas?
Yeah. So, and then that's what led into Bero Bero, where I started producing my own music and on my computer, and at first it was just like on a laptop with like GarageBand or whatever, and then I would take those sessions into the studio, and then he would help make it into a full mix. So, and he would record drums. Peter would record the drums and my vocals, and so now since the pandemic, like I've got like a home set up going, and we've recorded drums. I can record my own vocals.
Yeah.
So
working on your new EP, it's here in your home studio?
Yeah.
Okay. So at some point in there, you started out doing it just yourself, and Peter helping you mix, and then David joined in with you for Bero Bero?
I guess something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long did it take before you started playing live?
So I wrote the first EP by myself.
Oh.
David and I were like in a fight.
You just did.
And then I was like, yo, I got this EP. Do you want to go play on it in the studio? And then he was like, okay. And so then we got back together. But so that first one, he just came and played on it.
Yeah.
But then after that,
done that whole thing.
we were working together.
Is the sound on that one, you think, pretty different than subsequent ones because of that?
I don't think it's because of that. I mean, but part of the reason the sound is a certain way is because of that. But I mean, there's a lot of, I think, elements to things changing.
Yeah, and we can also, like, now if you want, we could drop in a song from it if you want.
Okay, yeah. So this song from our first EP, it's called Quiet Eyes. It's basically like the song that is most filmed at like shows. Like so then it's like when we want to share clips of us playing that people tagged us in, it's like I kind of quit because a lot of times it's this same song that for some reason
this is what people usually post about you guys.
Yeah, this is like the song that they're like, oh, I want to take a video.
Oh.
And we're like, okay, I'm glad you like this song, but we want to share like other songs.
Others, yeah. Interesting. Okay, well now I can't wait to hear it so I can try to figure out why that might be.
reach out to me. The fairy shade I've seen tonight, come out to me. Lips are filled with alkali, come on to me. Cut out that stare, get next to me, let's get away.
I feel like there's something about that drum beat that almost sounds like some Michael Jackson song. Like just like it's a very simple like dance drum beat.
It's
like pocket drum beat.
A pocket drum beat?
Yeah.
What
like,
does that mean?
I don't know. But it's just like, you know, it's like not complicated.
Okay.
It's just like has a good groove to it.
It sounds like it makes me think of motion. It feels like a galloping horse, and then the singing on it is just so catchy and beautiful, and it sounds like a hit. Like I can see why people are sharing that one and dancing to it.
Yeah, so that's off the first EP.
Yeah. And it's really upbeat. People can just dance easily. And I mean, your songs it's really cool how you describe them on the site, how some of them are dancey and then they are also a little bit like gothy, dark, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, actually on that first EP, I 3 out of the 4 songs on it, I actually like, what do you call it? I tracked my own, I tracked the drum beat myself.
Okay. Just
for reference. So, I mean, I basically wrote the drum beats for that song. That's probably why it's so simple.
What does that mean? Like you're hitting keys?
Like, yeah, I used I didn't even use like a sample.
Yeah.
I like literally on the keyboard hit the bass, hit the snare, hit the hi-hat, you know, and made like myself the beats.
Did the drumming on the keyboard.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I wasn't using like a pre-made sample. Just for people who don't know, it's like, you know, you can have sample banks of drum beats and they'll just have all these different drum beats saved that you can set on a track and loop throughout a song. But I've never used those before, but for this first EP, because I was making it all by myself, kind of as a way to like lure David back into my life. Because like I said, we were kind of fighting and on off. We were maybe kind of broken up. I don't know, but yeah. So I made these drum beats, and then I was like, "Here's the beat." And then like when we got to the studio, it's like, "Here's the beat." I mean, I sent him the tracks in advance. I was like, will you play on these?
Yeah.
But he had like my little beats that I tapped in on.
Yeah, I love this, like your finger. It's like pigeon typing or pigeon pecking, making the drums.
Yeah. So yeah, only like the 4th song or the song called "Say Nothing" was like the drum not fully conceived yet. That song was like half written. That we kind of finished it together.
So we kind of did the drums on that.
Yeah.
I like when you talked about earlier about on a keyboard how there's like sort of pre-recorded little drum tracks that you can just hit. When I was little, had like a little kids Casio or whatever, and it was really cute. There was this whole lineup of words that I barely knew what they were, and it was like rumba, samba, bossa nova, and you'd hit it and like a different type of beat would play, and I loved it. So cool. So I can only imagine how intricate they are now.
Yeah, so that is like more like a sample, a sample bank where they have a style of rhythm that's like already all the part, like the whole beat is played.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you as a child could play on top of that. But it was fascinating. I loved just like hitting the different ones and being like, these are all so different.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know.
But on a keyboard though, you can really put on a percussion setting and each different key is a different drum or cymbal.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then even if you can do the keyboard sounds of those, or if you're using MIDI, like it'll still respond. It'll have like a kit, different kits, MIDI kits, and each key will respond like this. This is the bass drum key.
Yeah.
This is the hi-hat.
That is a lot programmed in to a keyboard.
Yeah. Well, you can either do it from the keyboard or you can do it MIDI and control it from the keyboard. Yeah.
People probably don't know how many possibilities there are with this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So that was your first EP?
Yeah.
And then how was it, was Hangfire open at that point when you lived here? Was that a place where you guys would go play?
But But Bero Bero never played there.
Okay.
It closed before I started Bero Bero, but Street Clothes played there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember seeing this band French Horn Rebellion there during Stopover 2015, I think. The first year I went to Stopover was 2015, and I was a volunteer.
Oh.
And
Hangfire was one of the venues.
I think that was the last year Hangfire was in it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm glad you got to overlap with Hangfire a bit.
Yeah.
And I know El Rocco is a really common place for you guys to play now.
Yeah, and I've played El Rocco with different groups too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've still done other projects and done other things and been on other records and stuff like that. Not to say that since moving to Savannah, I haven't collaborated with, you know, other people on their music, because I have.
Yeah.
It's just that I haven't done it as much as before, because it's like now I can pick and choose what I want to do versus like just saying yes to everything.
Yeah, in New York you have to take every opportunity, like every dollar, basically.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear just sort of like at that era, the other places. Would you go to the Jinx? Was that?
Yeah, I love the Jinx. Yeah.
They'll reopen.
Huh?
They'll reopen. So
yeah, I know.
They have a spot.
I was just remembering myself at the Jinx one night, stumbling in there.
I have a lot of memories.
Getting up on the stage during karaoke. It was one of those nights where it was like 8 people in there. And which one did I sing? I think I sang Crazy.
Patsy Cline?
Yeah.
Is that one of your go-to karaoke's?
No. That's just where I was at the moment, stumbling in at 1 a.m. Got up there, sang that, and then left.
And then that's a whole mood.
There goes Veronica. What's going on with her tonight?
Yeah, that's a certain kind of night for sure. I remember going to the Jinx a lot on Thursdays. They used to do 80s dancing, and it was like ladies' night. And you know, dollar drinks, and you get up on the stage and dance. And
that's probably before my time.
That was
that was even around by the time I showed up.
Yeah, that was when I lived in Savannah the first time. So it was like 2005 to 2010.
Yeah,
there was a lot of 80s dancing.
Well, and so my sister moved down here like early 2000s or whatever. Yeah. So I was visiting every year for the holidays. Or sometimes I'd come in the summer to go to the beach or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I was familiar with Savannah to a certain extent. So it's not like I was moving here blind and didn't,
that's nice.
You know anyone or anything.
Yeah. So when you did move here, would you and your sister go out a lot to the same places? Is she kind of into the same kind of things?
No, my sister thought it was weird that I was here.
Oh. Thought it was weird that you would leave New York, kind of?
It was just funny. No, it took a minute for her to, get used to me being here.
Oh, all right.
It was funny.
I guess we hadn't lived in the same city in a really long time.
Yeah.
And she's used to...
She's 10 years older than me, too.
Yeah,
so she moved out when I was 8.
Wow. So it was one thing when you would come visit her and go out a bit, but different for you to be here.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, we totally don't really run in the same circles at all, so... There's been some overlap, but in general, she has.
When you kind of were early here, 2014 and 15 and stuff, I know that even when I lived in Savannah before, they were always talking about Starland being the next thing and the next neighborhood.
Yeah.
But it took a very long time for it to actually have a lot of businesses open and for it to be a place that everybody would go. I mean, the Wormhole has been there forever, and but they were kind of pioneering. It was like the Wormhole and Sulphur Studio, and not a lot around there then. Well. We're going to take a quick break. I'm here with Veronica Garcia-Melendez, one half of Bero Bero, and we will be right back.
You are listening to WRUULP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with a global soul.
Trees are one of Chatham County's most treasured natural resources. Beyond their beauty and cultural significance, the impact of trees are far-reaching and compounding, spanning from economic benefits to health improvements to climate change resilience. Trees are woven into every aspect of our lives. Savannah Tree Foundation protects and grows Chatham County's urban forest through tree planting, community engagement, and advocacy. More information is available at savannahtree.org. This portion of WRUU's programming is brought to you by listeners and by Brighter Day Natural Foods. Brighter Day Natural Foods has been serving Savannah's healthy food and supplement needs since 1978. It is located at the corner of Bull Street and Park Avenue. They have online ordering and curbside delivery available, and now a walk-up window for smoothies, juices, and sandwiches from the deli. They are open from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sunday. More information can be found at brighterdayfoods.com.
What does it mean when we say that WRUU is a community radio station? It doesn't just mean that we invite the community to create programming, and it doesn't just mean that we're a voice for the community. It also means that we're counting on the community to keep us going, and you are the community. Almost all of our modest budget comes from small annual or monthly donations from listeners like you. You get to enjoy our community-focused programming because many others have stepped forward to do their part. Now do your part by joining our community of listener donors. Go to WRUU.org right now and make a one-time or monthly donation. And thank you for supporting Savannah's community radio station, 107.5 FM.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Arts on the Air. This is Tamara Garvey, and again, I have Veronica Garcia-Melendez, half of local beloved band Bero Bero, and also the Maxines. Welcome back. And we were just talking during the break, this was very cool, about just like the process of creativity and art, and me saying about doing these interviews, how it's just like in music where you come in and you have kind of an idea and a framework, and then it's going to go off where it's going to go, and then in the end you're kind of editing something together. But you were talking, it's so interesting, the idea of how you're always working collaboratively, and there's only, you can only really control your space of it.
Right, yeah, I was thinking comparing to, Savannah's full of visual artists and how most of you guys work by yourselves.
Yeah.
And how being a musician, it's like it's usually collaborative, and you don't have 100% control of the outcome, and you have to learn to work with others. And how when you're saying you're doing the interviews, it's like something happens you're not expecting, and it's like same with music. Someone just comes in with this other totally awesome idea,
yeah, and
then the song shifts into this new direction or something like that. And so even though I think that I know for myself, although I've spent a lot of time working with others, the Bero Bero project is a lot just me. So, is it like when you get in the studio and you've already like pre-written these things, but now you're recording properly? Is it like more often than not something happens spontaneously that does take it in a different direction, or how frequently is it that what you're recording is like really what you pre-planned? So that's kind of part of I was telling you, like, my history of kind of learning more about production by being in the studio and collaborating. I don't know, it can go either way, I guess. There have been moments where generally the songs stick to the framework that I've come up with.
Yeah.
But there have been a couple songs that I hit a wall, and I said, you know what, let's just get in the studio and just together come up with something.
Yeah, just a bunch of heads together.
Yeah.
Come up with it.
And honestly, some of the biggest hits, or a lot of the biggest hits in the world are like, 8-10 producers.
Yeah.
like
one person has credit for writing, but if you really dug in there, it took a lot of people.
Yeah. There'll be like 8 or 10 producers on a song, like they get credit for some idea that they had on it or whatever. Sometimes I get too stuck trying to do everything myself.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a challenge that it's like trying to grow as a musician. To take more ownership over the production process.
Yeah.
Doing sampling weird sounds and like tweaking them to make cool, weird sounds on the recordings.
The effects.
Like, that's the stuff that, like, doing stuff like that, I think there's a name for it, but I don't remember what it's called. But basically, Peter would come up with, like, let's drag these chains on top of the snare or something like that.
Oh, yeah. To, like layering in some kind of effect to it.
And so then I just started getting into, like, well, I want to make up my own weird sounds and put them on there myself, you know?
I would imagine... Oh, sorry.
One funny one was that David bought this xylophone thing or whatever, like the metal one, like for kids. Yeah. And I was like, why did you buy that? So we sampled, he put zip ties on a drill, and I just sampled it. He wanted the xylophone in the song, which I didn't want. So I just took this drill with zip ties and ran it across I made a scale, like a C minor scale, and was like, and it's a random sound. And
it was a great sound.
I was like, the xylophone made it. Glockenspiel, that's it, a Glockenspiel.
Okay. So what song is that in?
That's on the newest song, Passion.
Okay.
The newest
Keep
song.
an ear out for that. Listen to it and see if we can identify when the power drill
comes in. It's really buried in the mix, but just like fun stuff like that.
That must be really fun.
Like learning to do those types of things by myself and
like you said, how at the beginning you would be in there just watching and observing, and then finally you felt like you could speak up. But I would imagine like it probably takes a while to learn the vocabulary people are speaking about auditory things, to even like be able to speak up and point things out that you want to do. Like you have to have the way to describe what you're thinking.
Right, exactly. Yeah, mix going. The thing is for us, it's like we track music to play live so we can get the new songs on stage, but the levels and the mix and everything for the actual recording is different. Okay. So it's kind of like doing two things where, you know, we track the songs out for live, which can be a little sloppier mix. But then like on an actual recording, you gotta really like check everything and make sure it's like, you know, sounding perfect, especially this type of music, because, you know, that's just the nature of it.
Yeah, it's all about all the different sounds and experimental things.
Yeah.
So these newer songs, you have been playing them live?
Some of them we're still writing.
Yeah?
So, yeah.
And it's going to be another EP. Does that mean 4 songs?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
We keep pushing our release date, but...
I wanted to ask you about, so many things, but so your aesthetic, so at some point you won, in the Connect, you won the best music video for your song Symbiosis. And that video, and then this other one called Miami, you have a very cool, the visual aspect is so much of it, like just the effects in the video and the look of it and your costumes and everything. And I just wanted to ask you a bit about like you and David working together. Like you must have a lot of pop culture kind of influences that cross over. So you guys you like this, like the vibe that you're presenting visually is this really strong thing.
So the video for Symbiosis was done by our friend who lives in Atlanta, Britton Richter. He came and did that one, and we did have Erica from House of Strut style us for that video. Nice. So we did have a lot of help with that one. Probably why that one won an award. But then, and my friend from New York, my roommate from New York, she's the dancer in the video.
Oh.
We flew her down to dance.
I love that.
Yeah. So
she's like an Easter egg from your past.
Yeah. I know, she's one of my best friends. And then the Miami video, speaking of, we were talking over the break, editing over iMovie. I made that over iMovie.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
How?
So I just took all because before the pandemic, we would play in Florida quite a bit, and we played in Miami a bunch of times. And so every time we were down there, I would just take videos of stuff. Some of it just for myself, but then at some point I was like, I want to make a video for the song. Yeah. Miami, it literally was just like iPhone videos that I strung together in iMovie.
With various backdrops, wearing like a gold lame.
Yeah.
As a bathing suit.
Yeah, exactly. So, I basically had all the clips, and then I had David record me in that gold swimsuit, and that was the only like actual singing, and then everything else was just our different trips down there.
So and the song is like an ode to Miami. What is you guys' connection to Miami specifically?
Just that David and I early on discovered that we both love Miami, and the beach there is so beautiful, and it's like a way to feel like you're getting out of the country without having the like hassle of getting out of the country.
Yeah.
And the feeling in the club is right, 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 right.
So anyway, kind of realized like, hey, Miami's not that far from Savannah compared to where we both used to live up north. And so we just try to get down there so.
And Miami, like for me, I always think of it, it has this whole like the 80s Miami Vice thing, the aesthetic of it, and like the Art Deco hotels there, the architecture is like a really specific thing. So yeah, you guys, like you and David, you just seem to have this very, maybe I'm projecting, but I imagine you guys both liking a lot of 80s pop culture and like the way that, technology looked back then and video, like the look of it and the colors and things like that.
Well, that might be a little more me than him, but...
Because even just the like visual effects in your videos is very 80s looking,
Well, yeah, I mean that's really more my not my aesthetic. It's just my idea.
Is it like because it fits with the music?
Yeah, because it fits with the music.
Yeah,
I feel like the music is pulling from that late 70s kind of disco influence with post-punk, new wave, synth pop, like all kind of mixed together.
Yeah.
So I just feel like the aesthetic should kind of go with the sound.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
What are some of the bands from that area that you love?
So basically, I don't know. I mean, I did love a lot of like the synth pop, new waves.
Yeah.
Like
I was thinking of the Cars. I love the Cars so much.
Yeah, all that stuff. I loved like more gothy stuff too. I really just had a big variety of influence.
Yeah. Well,
and I think, we do have some darker songs and but lately we've been trying, and even during the pandemic we wrote some real kind of like dark songs that we sometimes will play on stage, but like we won't play too many of them because it's kind of like when we get booked, it's kind of expected that we play more like dancey stuff.
Yeah.
And I think just coming out of the pandemic, at least for me, I want to have a more fun, celebrate life, celebrate love, celebrate the things that are good, because there's so much negativity out there, and like if you dwell on everything that's wrong with the world, like you really make yourself sick and not want to like get out of bed.
Yeah.
And with the political climate and everything, I made myself sick. So I wanted to start focusing on the joy, and then when we were able to get out and start playing again and interacting again with one another,
people can be out in public again.
Yeah, everyone wanted to have some, like, at least the moment of the interaction of the music on stage with the crowd. It's like we want to have just half an hour, 45 minutes of feeling good and forgetting our problems.
People really miss dancing during the whole pandemic. I'm sure young people who are used to like being in cities and going out clubbing, you really miss that. There's a whole 2 years without it.
So I don't know. I'm kind of wanting to focus more on exploring like what makes us feel good versus expressing or addressing like the darker subjects. But I can play like a clip from our second EP.
Great.
Of like one of those songs that's basically a guy I dated one time was like, well, my father always said, you can only rely on yourself because like in the end you only have yourself. And I thought about that a long time, or I've thought about that again, here and there. And I mean, in a lot of ways it's true. And so this song is questioning that, especially when you do feel betrayed or let down by someone that you care about in your life.
Yeah.
So this song is kind of examining that idea of like are you really just alone in this universe and in this lifetime? So
What is the title of this?
It's called Just Alone.
Okay.
That song was written more when we started incorporating like a loop pedal into our set. So when the band first started, I would just track everything, but then we started writing stuff where I would start looping, and at first it was like a actual guitar pedal that I would like hit with my hand. But then we bought this RC 505 that has it's like a 5 or 6 channels loop pedal that you can actually store pre-recorded tracks in and also do live looping in.
Okay.
And so that song, that's second EP with Symbiosis and Just Alone. They were like songs that we written as looping songs. So live, I would play each part. Nothing was pre-recorded at all. It was like I would lay down each layer one step at a time, and,
okay.
and hit the pedal and lay down the next and the next and the next.
So they're more like complicated, basically.
Not complicated. It's just kind of like a layered. I think it's like a layered ostinato. Like you have one line that just keeps repeating the same part, and then you put another line that's repeating a different part.
Yeah.
And you make these layers of repeating parts, so that's cool in a way, but it also kind of locks you into that one structure. So that's why it was better when we got this other pedal, because then you could trigger like a different section that you had pre-saved or something like that.
Okay.
So
things can change throughout the song.
Yeah.
Instead of just being
one.
same.
Yeah. So that's why that second EP is kind of the same going through each song.
Oh, interesting.
Because they were written with the looping in mind and
yeah.
everything. And then when we went forward from that, we're like, okay, well, we don't just want to make those kinds of songs. We need to still have sections and choruses and verses, like normal songwriting,
So that second EP was kind of transitional a little bit. It was a stage that you got to, and then you jumped onto a different stage after that.
Yeah, and it was also kind of like an experiment in that layering of one layered ostinato, one repeating line.
And tell us, okay, this is probably very basic, but when you use the word and then I tracked this, what does that mean?
You put it record it in the computer or into the pedal. I could pre-record things into the pedal too. I don't have to use a computer, and just save it on the pedal.
Cool.
With this new pedal, you can save
How many things can the pedal save?
A lot.
I just wanted to get all this basic stuff in there for everybody. It's so interesting to hear just all the technology associated with this kind of music. I think is fascinating.
Yeah, because you've got to replace, you've got to take a 5-piece, 6-piece band, 4 to 6-piece band, and make it 2 people, but still make all the sounds.
Yeah.
So, you got to figure out how to do it.
Tell me about, just switching gears a little bit, tell me about your keytar. When did that come in?
That was cool. Too much free time in the pandemic and looking on the internet.
Oh, is it that recent?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
So yeah, just to dig in further into your 80s new wave vibe.
Well,
right?
so
Was it always like a dream? Like you have to have a keytar.
well, again, like the evolution of the band started with me just behind the keyboard and behind the percussion, and then we had a couple songs where we tracked everything out, where I played nothing and I just sang and stood in front of my setup.
Mm-hmm.
Like I came from behind like the table, as it were, like, and just sang, and then people were like, oh, I love it when you just come up to the front and sing.
Oh.
But I mean, I don't want to just sing. I'm not like a person who just sings. Like I write all these parts.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
like,
you
I
wanna be
want to
making
play
music.
them. I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I started thinking about a synth, the keytar, because it was a way that I could still be up front, but still get to play and not have to, like during the interludes and stuff, if I'm not playing, I have to like try to dance.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stress.
Yeah, a little bit.
And also I don't want every song to be just the tracks going and me dancing. Like I want to play along with David.
You're live playing something.
Yeah. So that's where I got the idea of bringing that in. So that way, because before, if I was in the front, I'd have to run back to my keyboard if I did want to play something.
Yeah.
So
This album, playing live, like how easy has that always been for you? Have you always been really comfortable, or were you kind of stage fright at the beginning?
Singing in front of people has always been a lot easier than playing in front of people. That's always been like a little more nerve-wracking about like hitting a wrong note, or like my singing, I just as a kid I would like do choir and stuff. So yeah, but it's fun. We love performing, me and David, and so that's like what we missed in the pandemic. We kind of lost some inspiration because the playing live was like an inspiration for us to keep writing.
Like seeing how people were reacting to the songs.
Not even just a feeling, a feeling of like, just a feeling of when there is a connection with the audience. And like, some people, I'm not like a real techie nerd or whatever. It's just, I had to learn to be more that way to get my ideas across in the way that I want to. So it's like, I've always been performing. That was the longest I've ever gone since I can remember that I wasn't out playing gigs.
Yeah.
So some people are real like homebody, like they want to be nerding on their computer and recording things, and like that's the doing that is just a vehicle for me, has been a vehicle so I could perform and share my ideas. My musical ideas. So when the pandemic hit and there wasn't a reason to do it, I wasn't like, some people wrote whole albums.
Yes.
Like
Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I think she wrote one every day.
Yeah. And like, I'm not going to compare myself to like some mega star like that, but just even like more indie musicians like myself wrote like whole albums and stuff. But, I mostly just like was depressed.
Yeah. No, that's the same. I mean, also in like the visual art community locally, some people produced a lot during the pandemic and some people like shut down and couldn't, and then after the pandemic did. It's really fascinating just how differently people got through it.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely just started taking more time to learn more about like engineering and stuff like that. But I only released one song as a result. I mean, it took a really long time working on it.
What were I came across online, you had some quarantine concerts.
Mm-hmm.
Is that some like performances you guys had previously done and then you released them, or what was that?
The quarantine concert was something in Tybee Post Theater. Well, the one we did was at Tybee Post. Okay. But Michael Gaster was in charge of that, and they had different locations where they did it. And it's something that he set up. And I tell you, it was so scary to get out of the house and go do that.
Yeah.
Even just, everyone was socially distanced and like masking and like sanitizing and everything.
Like pre-vaccines.
Yeah. Yeah. This was like spring 2020.
Oh, wow. I was right at the beginning. So what is this? You went to the theater and like kind of performed live to
Live to an
this
empty room with
Okay.
someone had a camera that live streamed it. But like, I mean, it was so weird. It was so kind of sterile.
Yeah.
Um,
And that was so early and everything. That must have been.
yeah, I
So
was
scary.
so scared.
Yeah.
So, but it was a cool experience to play there. I think he had mentioned that maybe at some point we'll do like a quarantine concert, like all the bands that
Oh.
did the live stream would
Yeah.
come together for a show. But
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah,
That would be like, what was that in the 80s? Was it Live Aid or Band Aid or something?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
everybody back together.
yeah. I should follow up and be like, hey man, let's do
Yeah,
that
you
thing.
should do that.
Because
With-
I'll plug my friend Lexi Belowing, her Savannah Stage Company. They're doing, I think, a Patsy Cline night. I'm gonna go to that.
Wow.
At Tybee Post.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is that?
Pause for 1
February 11th, I think.
second. Okay, that's the Patsy Cline.
Yeah.
It'll be you'll have memories of when you went and did karaoke and then left again.
No, that was at the Jinx.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Okay, so I wanted to like kind of finally, you're in another band now, the Maxines, a whole
Oh,
different
yeah.
vibe. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
talk about that. You're in a girl, is it like 90s inspired?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we started the Maxines. AJ Gray, local artist in town, she wanted to start a band, all-female band, and so we got Coco and Maddie. They're twins from Canada, on guitar and drums, and we've been playing out. We started our first time we played out was December of 2021.
Okay.
So we've been playing out for a year and writing our own music, and we just went in the studio this weekend and working on our first release.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
So this is your first time going into the studio and working on things with people who aren't just you and David.
Yeah.
So I found online that the first live show you guys played was like 90s covers. That was
Yeah.
your signature thing. That's
Yeah.
kind of fun.
Yeah, that's where we started, and but now we have our own sound, and I'm really excited. We're going to be releasing some singles before we release the full album, but
That's great.
I think that people will, when they hear the full production of the songs, they're going to be pretty surprised.
Will you have videos to go along with any of them too?
Yeah, we're gonna do
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
thing. So yeah, I'm excited to hear the final product. We're working
Yeah.
with Scary from Black Tusk. He's got a studio
Oh, cool.
a little outskirts of town towards Rincon.
Okay.
He's got a nice setup there, so he's recording us.
Okay.
Which I think we will be releasing a single in the next month or so.
Great.
So.
You want to talk about anything else coming up for you that we should keep an eye out?
So as far as shows, the Maxines are actually playing a fundraiser on the 25th at the Wormhole breast cancer awareness and fundraiser.
Okay, wonderful.
So it's going to be a bunch of bands. I don't know the rest of the bands, but I would say definitely check the Maxines Instagram. I'm sure we'll be posting a flyer with like the lineup, but it is a breast cancer fundraiser.
Okay.
And then Bero Bero's next show is actually March 4th at El Rocco. So, yeah, we're taking some time just to get some new material to share with everyone.
Yeah.
And
we'll keep an eye on the Instagrams for both Bero Bero and the Maxines for these releases.
Yes.
Can't
yes,
wait.
Yes.
Well, thank you. This has been so fascinating. I've loved hearing all the technicalities and vocabulary that you have. I love seeing the keytar in person. And thank you so much. I'm really excited to hear these songs when they're released.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for taking the time, Veronica.
Thank you.
Next up on WRUU, That Old Savannah Magic from 4 to 6 p.m. It's a variety show featuring Savannah history, radio theater, interviews, and music.
You are listening to WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with a global soul.